Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm so glad you're joining us today because we are looking at a rapid shift happening right out in plain sight.
Right on the side of basically every highway you drive on.
Exactly. We're talking about the explosive growth of the electric vehicle market colliding head-on with, well, an industry that hasn't fundamentally changed its business model in a century.
The towing industry.
The towing industry. It's such a wild situation.
It really is a fascinating intersection because, whenever a completely new consumer technology gets forced into a legacy infrastructure, you inevitably expose these hidden logistical gaps.
Yeah.
And today, we're examining what happens when that established roadside infrastructure simply isn't built for the modern vehicle.
Right, and to do that, we pulled some incredible insights today from a really compelling piece of source material. It's titled Electrifying the Roadside, Towing's Untapped EV Revenue Engine. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore this looming crisis in roadside assistance for EVs. We are going to break down the innovative mobile charging solution stepping up to fix the problem and
Look at why traditional tow companies are currently dropping the ball so badly.
yes, exactly. And even if you don't care about the towing industry specifically, I promise you, this is a masterclass in disruption.
Absolutely.
It's a perfect example of how rapid technological adoption can just completely break an established business model overnight.
I think the scale of this shift is the best place to start. The numbers in our source material paint a very clear picture.
They really do. As of 2026, the state of California alone has over 2.5 million registered electric vehicles.
2.5 million.
Yeah, so we have moved far, far beyond the early adopter phase. This is a fundamental structural shift in the automotive landscape.
And the forecasting shock is what we really need to look at. Based on the current trajectory outlined in our source, by the year 2028, an estimated 1 in 4 roadside assistance calls will involve an electric vehicle.
25%.
25% of all stranded motorists will be sitting in an EV.
Think about that for a second. If you're driving a gas car and you run out of fuel, a dead tank is, what, a 10-minute fix?
Pretty much.
Someone shows up with a jerry can, pours a couple of gallons in, and you drive yourself to the nearest gas station.
Right.
But with an EV, that same simple mistake currently means a complete logistical nightmare.
Because the physics and the logistics are just entirely different. I mean, you obviously can't carry a jerry can of electricity.
Oh, no.
But the issue goes much deeper than that. When an EV battery dies, the current default solution provided by the roadside assistance industry is a flatbed tow.
A full flatbed.
A full flatbed. And they aren't just taking you to the next exit. They usually have to tow you all the way to a dealership, or at best, a specific compatible high-speed charging hub.
But wait, why a flatbed? I see standard tow trucks dragging cars by their front wheels all the time. Why can't a traditional wrecker just scoop up a dead EV and drag it a few miles down the road?
It comes down to the drivetrain architecture. You see, most electric vehicles lack a true neutral gear that physically disconnects the wheels from the motors.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so if you drag an EV with its wheels on the ground, the regenerative braking system turns those electric motors into generators.
Oh, wow. So it's generating power.
Exactly. You are forcefully pumping high-voltage electricity back into a dead, unmanaged battery system.
That sounds dangerous.
It is. That carries a substantial risk of catastrophic drivetrain damage, or worse, an electrical fire. So the flatbed is essentially mandatory.
Which means the customer experience is just atrocious. According to the exact figures in our source, that flatbed tow costs the stranded driver between $200 and $400.
Up to $400.
Plus, they're waiting hours for this highly specialized heavy-duty truck to arrive, load a ridiculously heavy vehicle, and navigate through traffic to a dealership.
It's insane.
You have a driver who literally just needs energy, and instead they are forced into this incredibly expensive, time-consuming ordeal.
Well, applying a 20th century solution to a 21st century problem rarely yields a good result.
True.
The tow company might be collecting a decent fee for that flatbed service, assuming they even have one available to send out.
Right. Big assumption.
Right. But the customer's left sitting on the shoulder of the interstate, hazard lights dimming, incredibly frustrated.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because nature abhors a vacuum, and a new alternative is stepping right into this one. It's called mobile EV charging.
It is a remarkably elegant approach to the problem.
Yeah.
Instead of dispatching a massive, expensive flatbed truck, an operator sends out a standard response vehicle,
Like a pickup truck?
like a pickup or a small transit van. And it's equipped with a portable 9 kilowatt level 2 charger.
Okay.
And because it's a nimble vehicle, it doesn't get stuck in the same operational bottlenecks as a heavy-duty tow truck. It can arrive at the stranded driver's location in just 30 to 45 minutes.
I want to pause on those technical specs for a second because I know we have listeners who really know their charging speeds.
Sure.
A 9 kilowatt level 2 charger isn't exactly a DC fast charger. Why use a level 2? Wouldn't you want to blast the car with as much juice as possible to get them out of there?
That is a natural assumption, but it ignores the physical realities of mobile response.
Oh, so.
Well, a DC fast charger requires a massive, incredibly heavy battery bank and a sophisticated cooling system.
Oh, right.
If you put that in a response vehicle, you suddenly need a heavy-duty truck again, which entirely defeats the purpose.
You're back to square one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A 9 kilowatt level 2 charger is the operational sweet spot. It provides a meaningful charge, but the equipment is small enough and light enough to be mounted in a standard fuel-efficient vehicle.
That makes total sense from an overhead perspective. But then we get to the actual charging math, which initially threw me off when I read it.
The time ratio.
Yeah. The source states that using this 9 kilowatt system, it takes 11 to 12 minutes of charging to add approximately 5 miles of range to the EV.
Yes.
I have to play devil's advocate here. 5 miles. That sounds practically useless.
It sounds minimal until you reframe the objective.
Mm-hmm.
The goal of a mobile rescue operation is not to top off the battery so the driver can finish their road trip.
Okay.
The objective is simply to provide enough range to break the paralysis.
Ah, I see.
5 miles is almost always enough distance to let that vehicle safely limp off the highway and reach a proper stationary public charging station.
Right.
It shifts the entire service paradigm from we must transport this heavy vehicle to we just need to activate this vehicle so it can transport itself.
It really is the digital equivalent of the jerry can.
It is.
But then I look at the pricing for this service. The source notes the mobile charge costs the customer anywhere from $149 to $349, depending on the specific service conditions or location. I can hear people listening right now thinking, wait, $300 for 5 miles of range, that is highway robbery. Why would a consumer ever agree to that?
Because the consumer isn't buying electricity by the kilowatt hour in this scenario.
What are they buying?
They are buying an unstraining service. You have to compare it directly to the alternative,
The flatbed.
the flatbed tow, which costs up to $400, takes 3 hours of waiting, ruins your entire afternoon by dropping you at a closed dealership, and carries the risk of damaging your car.
When you put it that way.
Right. For a comparable or even lower price, the mobile charger arrives in 45 minutes, adds the range in 12 minutes, and lets you drive yourself to a coffee shop with a fast charger to continue your day.
When you lay it out like that, the value proposition is completely inverted. It is definitively faster, it's cheaper than the upper end of the legacy option, and it's infinitely safer for the vehicle.
Theoretical superiority is great, but businesses survive on real-world application.
Which is the perfect pivot, because it sounds great in theory, but I'm always skeptical until I see it working on the ground.
Naturally.
Are there actually people making this model work right now? The source material details a specific case study of a guy named Dan Downey operating a mobile charging business in Sacramento.
Yes.
And the data from his operation is wild.
What's fascinating here is the organic nature of his success. Dan has completed 127 EV rescues in the Sacramento area.
127.
And from those calls, he generated $38,400 in revenue.
Wow.
That averages out to roughly $302 per call, which perfectly validates that premium pricing model we were just discussing.
It totally does.
But the most striking metric isn't the revenue, it's the customer acquisition cost. He built that track record using zero paid advertising.
Not a single dime spent on Google Ads or billboards.
Nothing.
Every single one of those 127 customers found him through organic search and word of mouth. He also maintains a 4.9-star average rating.
Which is incredibly hard to do in emergency roadside services.
Extremely hard. But I have to ask, how does a stranded motorist even know to look for Dan in Sacramento when their car dies? Wouldn't they just call AAA or their insurance provider?
They absolutely do call their traditional roadside dispatch first.
Okay.
And that is exactly where the legacy system fails them. The dispatcher tells them, we can get a flatbed out to you, but it's going to be a 3 to 4 hour wait, and we have to tow you to the dealership.
Ouch.
The driver, sitting on a dangerous highway, panics and immediately pulls out their smartphone. They start searching for mobile EV charging near me. or Emergency EV Charge Sacramento. It's a desperation search.
So they are actively bypassing their own insurance networks because the provided service is so inadequate.
Exactly. The organic demand is pulling the business to operators like Dan, rather than Dan having to push his business onto the consumer.
It proves there is a gaping hole in the market. Consumers are actively searching for a modern solution because the traditional dispatchers have completely let them down.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the business implications here are enormous. If this solo operator in Sacramento is pulling in almost 40 grand in pure found money with zero marketing, why are the massive established tow fleets completely asleep at the wheel?
It's a great question.
Why aren't they jumping all over this?
In a classic case of legacy industry tunnel vision. Tow companies have millions of dollars tied up in heavy-duty assets.
Right, the trucks.
When you own a fleet of $150,000 flatbed trucks, every single problem looks like a nail that needs your massive hammer.
Man, that makes sense.
Traditional dispatchers are currently either declining these EV calls because they don't have a flatbed available, mishandling them, or actually losing money on the calls due to the high operational overhead of running those heavy trucks.
But our source outlines that these legacy tow companies don't even have to reinvent the wheel to capture this revenue.
No, they don't.
They don't have to go out and buy a bunch of new vans and chargers right away. There are 3 distinct partnership models they can use to integrate mobile charging without spending a single dollar up front.
And breaking down these models really highlights how irrationally stubborn the legacy providers are being.
Okay, walk us through them.
Let's look at the first one, the referral model. This is the most hands-off approach possible. When a tow company receives a call from a stranded EV driver, instead of telling them we can't help you or offering a 4-hour wait, they simply forward that call to an independent EV charging operator like Dan.
But from a business perspective, isn't that just giving away a customer to a potential competitor? Why would a tow boss do that?
Consider the alternative. The alternative is zero revenue and an angry caller. Under the referral model, for doing literally nothing but passing along a phone number, the tow company pockets a $25 to $50 referral fee.
Wow.
It transforms a rejected, wasted call into instant, zero-effort profit.
Free money for routing a call. That is hard to argue with. But what if the tow company wants to maintain that customer relationship? What if they don't want the driver to know they are outsourcing the job?
That brings us to the second option, the white label model.
Okay.
In this scenario, the EV charging operator essentially works under the traditional tow company's brand. The tow company takes the initial call, dispatches the mobile charger, and handles the billing, making it look as though it's part of their own fleet.
Ah, so the stranded driver thinks, wow, Bob's Towing is incredibly high-tech and fast. They saved my day. That is brilliant for brand loyalty.
It allows the tow company to completely control the customer experience and dictate their own profit margin while entirely outsourcing the specialized labor and the equipment costs.
And the third way to partner up feels like a really smart operational safety net.
The overflow model.
Yes.
Think of it as surge protection. There are no commitments, no minimum volume requirements. The tow company simply routes the specific EV calls they cannot handle to a dedicated mobile charging operator.
Give me an example of when they'd use that.
Let's say it's a rainy Tuesday. There's a multi-car pileup on the interstate, and every single flatbed is deployed.
They're maxed out.
Right. Instead of leaving an EV driver stranded for 6 hours, they use the overflow partner.
It ensures they never have to turn away business, even at maximum capacity. Having these 3 different ways to integrate the solution, all of which cost the tow company absolutely nothing to start, really makes you question the psychology of these legacy business owners. The barrier to entry is literally on the floor.
It speaks to a broader lack of adaptability. And the stakes for the towing industry are entirely existential at this point.
Existential?
Yes, the source material draws a very firm conclusion here. The tow companies that figure out how to handle EV calls right now, today, will completely own their local markets for the next decade.
Because they are the ones building the necessary infrastructure, the vendor relationships, and the reputation with the modern consumer.
Exactly. The companies that decide to wait, the ones who stubbornly stick to their flatbeds and ignore the changing makeup of the vehicles on the road, are going to bleed market share.
Yeah.
First movers will capture the high-margin EV calls, leaving the legacy fleets fighting over the shrinking pool of traditional internal combustion engine tows.
It is the ultimate adapt or die scenario.
Yeah.
And speaking of adapting, for any industry professionals listening to the deep dive today who want to actually get ahead of this curve, our source material included a highly practical bulletin.
The trade show information.
Yes. Dan Downey, the operator running that highly successful case study in Sacramento, is going to be presenting at the American Towman Showplace. That event runs from April 22nd through the 24th in 2026.
If you are in the logistics or towing space, seeing the physical hardware makes a massive difference. You'll have the mobile charging equipment on display, demonstrating exactly how small the footprint is and how it integrates into a standard vehicle.
And if you aren't flying out to the show, the source provided direct contact info. You can call 916-826-9410, or you can visit Sacramento Mobile EV Charging.com.
Great resource.
You can reach out directly to learn exactly how to add this mobile charging capability to your existing dispatch operations at zero cost. Again, that phone number is 916-826-9410.
Synthesizing this entire narrative, what we are really witnessing is a fundamental infrastructure gap.
A huge one.
A massive technological evolution. The mainstream adoption of electric vehicles has effectively rendered the old emergency solutions completely obsolete. The flatbeds and the jerrycans don't work anymore.
And that obsolescence has created an incredibly lucrative vacuum. Into that space steps agile mobile charging solutions that are proving to be faster for the customer, cheaper than the worst-case alternative, and significantly safer for the vehicle itself.
Looking at all this data and the stubbornness of the legacy operators, it really makes me wonder about our listeners' experiences. What stands out to you?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Have you ever noticed how often established, powerful industries completely fail to adapt to obvious shifts in consumer technology? They sit there, stuck in their traditional ways, insisting their old tools still work, until an outsider comes along and proves definitively that there is a better, more profitable way to serve the customer.
It happens in almost every sector of the economy, which leaves me with one final lingering question for you to ponder long after this deep dive ends. We just saw how a simple portable battery pack can completely disrupt a century-old towing business model. So what other invisible legacy service industries, things like traditional parking garages, fast food drive-thrus, or even your neighborhood auto body shops, are quietly sitting on the edge of an existential crisis?
A storm is coming for them.
Are they about to face a total disruption simply because they haven't realized that the cars driving into their businesses have fundamentally changed? Something to think about next time you're on the road. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.